G'day off-roaders. Well, you've asked for it, so here it is. The Off-Road Show, now on DVD. Check out Volume 1, which has the full episodes from 1 to 10 on the online store. Now you can enjoy all the Off-Road Show action where it should be seen, on the big screen. This show's off-road rig is Lyndon from Lake Bolac and his 1986 J53 Mitsubishi Jeep.
It's a 1986 J53 Mitsubishi, which is a licensed copy of a CJ3B. From my understanding of the licensed side of this vehicle, Willys built the CJ3B from roughly 52 to 63, I think it was. Mitsubishi got licence for these, to build these from 1953 till 1998. I based it around a Wardlaw LaFranchi, which was a World War II Kenworth wrecker. They had a bar very, similar sort of a design, a flat sort of a bar, only the width of the actual bonnet cowl. The indicator park light protectors and the headlight protectors are Mitsubishi items. These weren't on it when I got it. They were in a box of stuff that came with it, and they were chromed, and the chrome was just a bit too much bling for me. They seem to do the trick. I suppose they'd stop a bird from breaking something. I don't know whether they'd stop an elephant. A factory sidestep. They're good when you're getting out, but they're a bit of a liability in the bush because they hang out wider than the body. They're not really designed for pivoting on rocks. But yeah, the canvas top wasn't originally canvas. It had a vinyl top on it, and the bloke that owned it before me lost that. It blew out of his trailer when he was travelling one day and couldn't find it. So he got a crowd in Kalgoorlie to make this one, and they did a nice job. That's the original tyre carrier. All I've done is bunged the shovel and axe holder on it.
Long before Mitsubishi were making Tritons and Pajeros, they were making Jeeps. In fact, there were over 30 variants of the Jeep under licence.
It's got unbelievable quantities of power. It's got a little 2.7 litre turbo diesel, little cast iron motor. It's made it up to a Mitsubishi 4-speed box. Behind that's a licensed copy of a Spicer 18 twin stick transfer case, which is an offset drive. And being an offset drive means I could put an overdrive onto the back of that and get a gear splitter on it. So I fitted a ATV overdrive from Herm, the overdrive guy, and that works a treat. And now it enables me to split gears and cruise. Before I was fairly revving at 100 k's, now I can slip overdrive and just cruise at 100 kilometres an hour. So that's a real bonus. The rear diff's a Dana 44 semi-floater one-piece axle, but it's a Mitsubishi licensed copy of a Dana 44.
The fact that these Jeeps were still being produced by Mitsubishi right up until 1998 says a lot about its original design concept. When the first Jeeps rolled off the production line during World War II, they were expected to last about 90 days. Some of them are pushing on 60 years later.
It's fairly low geared. First gear in the gearbox is fairly tall, but the transfer case is 2:3 to 1. The front diff is 488, which is the standard Spicer ratio, but the rear diff is 4777, which is Mitsubishi ratio. But we get around that with tyre pressures. It's very, very close. Yeah, gearing's not bad. It's got to be pretty steep and nasty if I can't idle, let me foot off the clutch and then grab the accelerator. I don't have to worry about the hand throttle so much. But it hasn't got any traction aids. We've got open dip, so you've got to sort of try and keep all your wheels on the ground, or it all turns a little bit fun. The suspension's just basically a standard leaves that it had in it. I think they're 65mm wide rear springs and 65mm front springs. The shocks were on it. They're yellow, which leads me to believe they might be old man emu. But yeah, look, one day we might put a set of Ranchos on it, but they're still working. I've unbolted them, stretched them all out. They had no gaps in them, so yeah, they're not shaking me to bits. So yeah, they're as they were. I ordered a set of these, and they weren't actually released. They're a KM2 BF Goodrich in a 235/85/16, and slipped them on, and I'd have to say they're fantastic little tyre. They work very well and they're nice. They've got good manners on the road. They took about 400 or 500 k's to settle in on the road, but they're very nice on the road and not noisy. The dash panel is a standard Mitsubishi J53 dash panel. The radio sort of looks like it's been hacked in there, but from the pamphlets I've seen, a lot of them did have a radio in there. I'm not sure why the cowl on that one's trimmed the way it is. The only extra instrumentation it's got a couple of warning lights that have been put in it. It's got an extra warning light on the temp, it's got an extra warning light on the oil pressure. It's got a turbo boost gauge, and the instrument panel is overlit, so they're not rear lit, they're overlit, and they glow in the dark, which is very handy if you want to drive around with your lights off and know what your instruments are doing. A lot of call for that. Yeah, a lot of call for that. I don't know where, but there must be. The long-range fuel tank in the back sort of came about out of necessity. The little fuel tank in it only held about 38 litres, and although it sort of does 8.5 to the 100, you found yourself pulling over and stopping for fuel at the most inconvenient of places, and I prefer to stop to have a cuppa and enjoy the sight, not be mucking around with fuel. So I scrounged around in a couple of sheds at home and I found out a diesel fuel tank that actually originally had been off a 1965 Acco with a Perkins in it, and plonked that on a bit of a bracket I knocked up, held in with 4 bolts through existing holes in the vehicle, and set it up over the top of my toolbox so I still had room to get into my toolbox. Put a water trap filter on it and a bit of P-class hose and a couple of taps and a nut and tail so I could separate it and take it out easily. Silver soldered a bit of Bundy tube into the neck of the vehicle's fuel tank so I could actually undo my filler cap if I wanted to, if I had problems, and see the fuel running in. But basically you just drive down the road, reach between the seats, turn the tap on, watch the fuel gauge go up to full and turn it off again. It's got a 24 volt charging system, which is, I think, sort of stems back to the military heritage of it all, and it starts exceptionally well, hence the name. When she hits, she fires. I don't know if you could read this on the front here, but that's an old woolshed saying from the old days with the old single cylinder engines when they were winding them over and drop the valves and they'd go tuff, tuff, tuff. When she hits, she fires. Future plans, I'm hunting down an offset drive Dana 44 for the rear, and then I'll put a traction aid in the back of some description, probably an automatic traction aid. I don't think I need a full locker in the back, but you know, something that I don't have to think about, it just does it itself. Power steering is probably one thing that they do need. They are pretty heavy to steer. I think if it still had the 15-inch 600 15s, which was the original tyre, it probably wouldn't be quite so bad. With slightly bigger tyres, it is a handful, especially in 4-wheel drive with your tyres down. I like the 3B look because it's probably one of the uglier Jeeps that was ever built, and it was ugly but practical, and I like that. The high bonnet is sort of frowned upon by some people. They always thought it was an intermediate model between the CJ2 and the M38A1 or the CJ5 that was the full rounded bonnet and guards. But I like the high bonnet. It's got I don't know, there's something about ugly and appealing that go together sometimes, and I think it's got it. If you were considering buying a 3B and then restoring it and making it into a daily driver, I think unless you're a purist and you actually really wanted a Willys 3B, I'd go for one of these because it's got all the good fruit to begin with. You've got power assisted brakes, they might be drum, but you're only going to get drums on a genuine 3B and they're not going to be power assisted. You're going to get a heater, which makes it a lot easier to drive it on the road if you do get a foggy windscreen. You get outboard springs, you just get all the slight improvements that have made this probably a bit more of a user-friendly vehicle than the real thing. It rides nicely and it's economical and it's got heaps of power. It's nice to be able to overtake traffic on the road In fact, it's amusing to overtake traffic on the road because a lot of people do a double take when you round them up.
And speaking of rounding up, I reckon she'd be a lot of fun on the paddocks around muster time. And don't forget, off-roaders, grab the Off-Road Show DVD Volume 1 from the online store. Thanks for watching.